good evening, folks. It's a pleasant evening out there, and I'm glad to see quite a lot of young minds who are already trading. Some of you wanting to learn the aspects of stock market. Some of you not sure of what it is. And I also see, when I was speaking with Maurya in the morning, he was saying that it's going to be a mixed crowd from all over the country. And truly a reflection of that is what I can see from the chat box. A really warm welcome to you, all of you. I'll start with something in terms of, all right, let me just first share my screen, and then I'll ask you the questions associated with them. I hope by the end of the session, I'll be able to give you certain input, certain feelers in terms of what the stock market is about, and typically what we don't get to learn in the colleges or in our curriculum if it is a part of our curriculum. So this series of Unplugged, the savings option you were not taught in college. Some of you have already told that you have started off with your trading activities. It's good that you guys have started early. It helps to be associated with the markets in the long run. So these are the pointers that we are going to look at: the introduction, the components associated, the investment avenues associated, specific focus on mutual funds, and a landscape that is available for students in this particular career of the landscape of stock markets and securities markets, the various aspects that you could be pitching in. I'm not very sure what level of education are you at, whether are you pursuing your undergraduation currently or completed your PG and working somewhere else. So, all right, let me admit somebody. Okay. So I'm sure all of you have seen something like this. If so, please put it in the chat box. Markets have really crashed. This was early to 2020 when the coronavirus, the pandemic cases started globally, and then subsequently the markets had slowed down. Simran, you have raised your hand. You have anything to say, Simran?
So guys, if you're having any doubts, what you can do is you can note it down or put it in the chat box. So at the end of the session, Krishna is going to take those questions and then he's going to answer.
All right, cool. So, Maurya, I suppose they have the access to the chat box?
Yes.
All right. So please, guys, anything that I'm asking you directly, you could answer it through the chat box. So any of you have faced this? This was somewhere around to 2020 Jan and Feb period, around that time.
Yeah, I see like a couple of them, not a couple, almost most of them have seen the markets have fallen, Krishna. To be honest, today also the market was dull, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it was dull in the morning, but later on it covered up and had a mix of it. The reason why I'm specifically asking you this, guys, is general tendency of any student, anybody who's looking at the stock markets, is generally a fear. What happens to my money? At the end of the day, it's your hard-earned money, right? It's your money or it's your parents' money. Somebody gifted you a pocket money and you wanted to splurge on this. It could be any way of getting the money. Eventually, it is a hard-earned money. No money for that matter is an easy money, right? So when such a thing is there and there is a panic, so if you see how people are holding their heads and covering their faces, does it really give the right picture? The question that each of us have to ask when we are dealing with the stock market or being part of the stock market is that all these news that goes around, how serious is this? Is this something that's going to be fundamentally changing the way in which we approach things? Or, okay, ek news hai. This is one of the aspects that happen in the market, and that's it. Nothing beyond that. It's a part and parcel of life. If you are able to answer this question clearly, then I'm sure as students, as people who are going to be part of the securities market, you will have a very strong, successful career or a lot of tons of money that you can make in the markets. How? Why? Why do I speak like this? So all the things that have happened, let's say in the 2008 global financial crisis, what happened in 2020, Corona, what happened, monetization, what happened, demonetization, what happened in the markets, or any other situation that happened 2001, going back all the way to 2001 when the Twin Towers, had been bombed. Was there a crisis? Many questions might arise. But if you look at the next slides that I'm going to showcase to you, just look at this slide of, this is a Sensex. Sensex is an index which represents the, it comprises of 30 constituent stocks. So it's a representative of those 30 stocks which have been picked up to generally give an overview of the market. And if you see, I've taken the data from 2004 Jan onwards, almost 17 years now, right? And look at the growth that it has happened. There have been a fall at points. So as what we can see probably in the month of, in the year 2008, between 2008 and 2009, you see there is a slump that is there. Again, towards Jan 2016, December 2016, the demonetization, there was a slight slump that was there. Again, in the month of Jan 2020, there is again slight slump is there. So if you overall see the traction of the markets from where it was as back as 2004 and the way it is today, it's always been an upward curve. So what were they actually holding their heads for? That's the big question that each of us have to ask. So the papers, the news that comes across, $1 trillion have got down the drain today. Markets have collapsed and whatever things that you get across in the market, these are only event-specific activities. If you look at it in the long run, if you look at it from a substantial perspective, which is what savings are supposed to be, right? Savings are not supposed to be like, आज मेरे पास इतना था और कल कितना होगा, right? कल नहीं बाबा, 10 साल के बाद कितना होना चाहिए? The questions that one needs to look at is, in the long run, how much money is this going to be? And from the stage where BSE was there back then, Sensex was there, to a stage where it was 58,726 as on last Friday. I took the data of 17 September. That's the stage it was in. So there is a substantial movement that is happening in this. Similarly, there is another index that we speak about called as Nifty. So all of us are familiar with the word Nifty. Nifty stands for NSE's index representing 50 shares. So it's a Nifty 50 is a stock. Again, I've taken the data from all the way from 1996. That's about 25 years of data that I have. Look at the point at which it was around that time in the year 1996. And look at the point at which it is on the last Friday, 17,450. That means the markets, while there may be a tendency for it to fall down, correct, cyclically it happens. But overall, if you look at it from a long-term perspective, there has always been an increase in the value of money that people have seen. So when we look at market, particularly the youngsters who are part of this session today, when you look at the markets, you have a tendency to read through the news and look at it only from an immediate short-term or that day's perspective. But if you look at it slightly from a longer-term perspective, this is exactly how the graph will be. And this is not something that I made up, right? Or each of you can log into the NSE website and the BSE website and track the data by yourself. All you have to do is pull up the 25 years data, and this is what it typically shows. So going back to my first slide that was there, is it that, a scary situation? Certainly not. Is there a possibility that you would have lost some money? It would have been possible that somebody might have lost the money, provided they were looking at it from a short-term perspective and not from a long-term perspective. All the things, the steep fall that you see in Jan 2020, almost a vertical line there, right? Downward. Even during that time, when it fell, the stocks, when it fell, it again got back in 6 months time, and subsequently it actually jumped up, and where it closed, it was almost less than 12,500, and it went up to 17,500 now. That means 500 points more it has gone actually from the previous highs. That only shows that over a period of time, your monies do tend to grow in the stock markets. Of course, I will always have a disclaimer when we deal with stock market that certainly there is an element of risk. Like this, at times, there might be a slight fluctuation in the market, particularly if you have to withdraw that money. Suppose for some reason you have to withdraw that money and you don't have that opportunity to make money at that time. Yes, certainly you will have a loss proposition there. So how do you plan? So the questions that we generally don't get to hear in our curriculum, be it a commerce student, be it a BTech student, be it a art student, any stream, when you're learning subjects, it's all focused on the subjects. Of course, the whole point of a subject is to focus on that subject, right? But at the end of the day, all of you, whichever stream you are from, are eventually going to earn. Now, when you're going to earn, that means that earning, that money has to further grow. Some of you, you might be using it for your, EMI purchases. All of you want to buy a bike, car, and stuff like that. So you probably spend some of that on that. Some of it you will take on a loan, pay EMIs. But still, there has to be some amount of money, which you should look at it from this perspective. If you start thinking from today, 25 years later, how this money is going to grow. And that is what one needs to keep it in mind. So please, so the first 2 points was more related to tell you, just to give you a gist, that long term is what one needs to look at it, not necessarily a short term. At this point, I would like those of you who had actually put across in the chat box that, you are into trading. Those of you who had put in the chat box when Maurya was asking this question that how many of you are in the stock trading? This question is specifically to you. Do you do short-term trading or do you do investing? Is it short-term trading that you do or is it investing?
Krishna, I think so. People have understood you. Most
All
of
right.
them are replying short-term trading only.
All right. Okay, cool. So moving on to the next point. So what are the key investment points that each of us have to maintain here? Of course, we have to remember these very clear points. That is, there is a risk and return. So for those of you who are new to the concept of stock markets, generally, as we saw earlier, that people hold their heads and stuff, tending to feel that there is a lot of risk. Yes, certainly there is a lot of risk because you already saw in the graph that it tends to come down a bit in cyclical formats and so on when compared to your traditional products. The most traditional product that we have seen from ages in the Indian system is your savings account. So paisa savings mein dal do, paise FD mein laga do, safe hai, return aayega. Certainly they do give a return, but the return that you get is limited to the risk. So agar risk kam hai, if your risk is little lower, then obviously the returns expectation also is to be lower. Risk zyada le rahe ho, if you are trying to take a higher amount of risk, then your expectation of the returns also increases. So your risk and return actually go hand in hand when you're dealing with the stock market. And there are certain types of risks that we have to be familiar with. The market risk, when we use the word market risk, we primarily talk about the price fluctuation. Reliance का price आज ऊपर गया है, कम हुआ है. Infosys का price ऊपर गया है, कम हुआ है. That's the price that we are talking about, whether it is moving up or down. Liquidity. At some times, we will not be able to sell that stock for various reasons. For example, no taker is there for that particular stock. Then you will not be able to offload that stock. That is called as liquidity risk. Sometimes regulators, so all the stock markets in India are regulated by a body called as SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. So SEBI sometimes puts across certain regulatory restrictions on some stocks. Some of the stocks may be banned for trading because of certain non-compliance. Some of the stocks may be banned from trading because they have breached certain risk parameters and so on. So because of those regulations that have been set up, you might actually have a risk of not able to trade that particular stock. आज की दिन देख लो, for example, today SAIL, the Steel Authority of India, was on a trading ban because it breached certain limits which were stipulated by the regulator. So whoever was intending to trade on SAIL in the F&O segment, the futures and options segment, they were probably not able to do. So that's a regulatory risk that one needs to look at when they are dealing with the stock markets. Credit default risk, of course, credit default risk directly does not impact the stock markets, but associated with stock markets, when they are having a debt instrument issued and they are not paying, or they are completely winding down their business, then certainly their ability to repay and eventually their ability to generate that kind of value for their business comes down. So that's a risk. Operational risk, yes, sometimes we are after all human beings, right? So there is a element of risk that is there for us when you are typing it. Sometimes मैं trading करते instead of saying buy, I by mistake put across a sell order. Possibility is there. That's an operational risk. I didn't intend to sell, but I had by mistake put it across a sell order. So there might be certain errors, operational risks that can come across. It could be manual, like how I said, or it could be sometimes system driven. About a year ago, on one particular day, National Stock Exchange actually stopped taking orders because there was a technical glitch at their end. So पूरे दिन के लिए trading halt हो गया था. There was absolutely no trading on the system because there was an operational issue in terms of the connectivity was not catching up. So they had to extend the market hours beyond 3:30 for a while. So those are bound to be there. Technologically, those are bound to be there. That's called as an operational risk. Behavioral risk. As somebody, if I'm asking a question of, आज कैसे जाएगा sir, आज market, सुबह देख रहा था, market नीचे जा रहा था sir, I was thinking like this, but actually ऊपर उठा eventually. By the end of the day, it was a positive market that we had. It closed green. Behavioral risk plays one of the critical factors when you, as an individual, are associated with the stock markets. You should develop a pulse and stick on with that behavior. If you are dilly-dallying, दो बार सोच रहे हैं आप एक चीज के बारे में, एक बार कन्विंस होने के बाद दो बार सोच रहे हैं, somewhere that doubt comes across in your mind, and when that doubt comes in your mind, वो बोलते हैं ना चंचल मन, you are not very sure of what you want to do. At that time, you tend to get into a little bit of a chaos, and that's where we speak about behavioral risk. जब मार्केट ऊपर जाना उठता है suddenly, then you feel that ना आज मुझे करना ही है, and then you put all the money. Maybe tomorrow the market might slump. The behavioral risk is one of the key factors why many people, like how you saw in the first slide, have to put their hands on their head. Control, behavior has to be controlled. Indecision, associated behavior, कि आज मुझे खरीदना था, बेचना था ये पॉइंट पे, I thought sir आज अभी नहीं, थोड़ा और रुक जाते हैं. अरे जब डिसाइड कर लिया है, when you have actually thought that you want to sell it at that point, why do you wait for the market to further react? Sell it, you already had in your mind. That indecision can actually cause further a negative situation for you in the market. And of course, information overload, that is the research risk that is there. Aajkal to YouTube is like become a easy access for everybody. All of us can look onto YouTube. Somebody is giving you a trading tip saying that ये stocks इतना जा रहा है, ये stock इतना कम हो रहा है. That's an information that is available free of cost for all of us. But what we don't understand, each of us, we don't understand is when that person is giving that recommendation, that person is giving that recommendation from his or her perspective, not your perspective, my perspective. So हम अपना research करना छोड़ देते हैं. So we don't tend to do our own analysis behind what was the logic of giving there. Maybe that person was correct. Maybe that person was absolutely correct in what he has given, he or she has given in the YouTube. But is it you? Is it matching with your requirements? Is it matching with your risk appetite? If so, then you can take a call. If not, then you should not. So that differentiation that you have to do, that research you should additionally do, generally we tend to miss it out. That's where we call it as information overload risk that comes across in the markets. So these are various types of risks that one is exposed to in the markets, which needs to be kept in mind. And the biggest point, as I told you earlier, greed and fear. Greed, और ज़्यादा चाहिए मुझे. I'm sure all of us, being human beings, will always want to have more. dil mange more, right? As what we say. So typically when we say, yeah, absolutely fine, guys. I will stick on with English. That's perfectly fine. When we particularly speak, saying that, you know, greed is one of the factors that are there, we actually tend to feel that it will move up if we wait for some more time. We have already got about, let's say, 2%, 3%, 5% returns. If you hold on for a while more, I might get a 10%. If I hold on for a little more, I might get another 20%. So in that need for greed, we actually tend to miss the bus. So we don't set up an expectation in mind, and based on that, we tend to miss the opportunities. Same goes with the fear. When the markets are probably coming down. Now, if I am an investor, let's say Krishna is an investor, and Krishna thinks that my money that I put today is not for immediate return, but for a 10-year period. In a 10-year period, there will be downs in the market. There will be other cyclicals that might come in the market. But if I start panicking and say that, no, I want to sell it today because the markets are falling for the last 3 days, it doesn't make any sense, because I'm not looking at in the short run. I'm looking at the long run. So unless fundamentally the company is going wrong, suppose some management changes there in the company in which I've invested, and the company has got bad reviews, or the company is really going through a lot of issues, then maybe I will also have to sell it. Even if it is at a slightly lower price than what I bought, I may have to sell it. But that's only to the extent of that aspect, but not every company, not every holding that I would have. So that fear factor also should be kept in mind. These two things I want all of you to remember, that greed and fear do play a significant role in your market activities. So if you have to unpack this title, so quick aspects of the stock market, how we are looking at the stock market. So it's a marketplace for trading of what? Financial instruments. So it's just like a market where a lot of financial products are being exchanged. What are the financial instruments that are usually dealt in the stock exchanges? The equity stocks, which we call it as the capital markets, where your shares of Reliance, Infosys are traded. Then we have something called as the equity derivatives, which is typically the futures and options segment. And in the futures and options segment, those are called as derivatives. Derivatives basically a product which gets the value from an underlying asset. The asset can be a Reliance share. Based on Reliance share, there's a contract on which you trade. That is the F&O, equity derivatives, futures and options. Both of them are separate products. Futures are one set of products and options are another set of products. Then we have currency derivatives. Just like how we have equity, Reliance stock probably as an underlying asset, we have currency, the INR versus USD, US dollars versus Indian rupee. That currency is also traded on the stock exchange in the form of a currency derivative. So that's also an instrument that can be traded on the stock exchange. Then we have debt instruments. Usually debt instruments, individual retail clients do not get participated in because the volume and the value involved in such debt instruments are large. That is why it is also called as the wholesale debt segment. Typically, people who are institutional investors usually tend to participate in the wholesale debt segment and not a retail class. And then we have interest rate derivatives, another derivative concept, which is based on the movement of the interest rates in the markets. The product are there. Of course, that's a very advanced product that is there in the market in terms of, this comes under a concept called as swap. Swap is a derivative product, and it is kind of a variant of swap, which is traded on the stock exchange. And finally, we have exchange traded funds. These are primarily like a mutual fund. They're not exactly a mutual fund, but like a mutual fund, which are traded on the stock exchange. So instead of directly buying the stocks, you buy actually the units of this ETFs, which again invest in various other stocks, and thereby you get your increase in value. So ETFs are exchange traded funds, typically created by the exchange for the purpose of dealing with portfolios. So these are the various instruments that a stock market will handle. So as I said, it's a marketplace for trading. So it's an electronic platform. Usually this is accessed through internet or mobile technology. So all of us have tabs, we have a laptop, we have a mobile. We can absolutely log in and trade anywhere from this. Trading means, of course, to buy and sell. So you are buying something, somebody is selling. So unless both of them are there, you cannot really ensure that there's a trade that has happened. And it is a part of the secondary market. Unlike your IPO, I'm sure all of you would have kind of heard the word IPO, initial public offering. So the recently, the case of Zomato that got listed recently, and so many others, right? You know, we are one of the largest and the most awaited IPO is expected probably later this fiscal, the Life Insurance Corporation, LIC. So IPO is an activity where the company which is wanting money from the public, it is coming across and issuing the shares to the public directly and taking the money from the public. That is an IPO. Once the shares are issued to the public, now the public has to eventually get their return in terms of selling the shares. Where do they sell? For that, they are listed on the stock exchange, and the listing facilitates the people to sell those shares, the investors to sell those shares, and somebody else to pick up those shares. That's the secondary market. So, stock exchange typically comes under the category of your secondary market, where all these financial institutions that we spoke about are traded. Now, since we are talking about savings, we need to understand what is the concept of savings and how does it help us. So traditionally, we have these saving products that maybe our parents would have spoken about, or I mean, if you have your grandparents at home, probably they would be much more conveniently speaking about these traditional products. You know, your post office savings scheme. You know, you go and put the money in the post office products, and they get the returns on that over a period of time. Investment in gold. Generally, the Indian perception is that we tend to put money in gold or gold ornaments that we feel as an investment. Though technically, as a trainer, as a financial specialist, I would say that investment in gold is never an investment, at least from an Indian perspective, unless you have a very clear understanding that you're okay to sell that gold and take that money. Otherwise, it is just something that you are keeping it for a long period of time, not necessarily from an investment angle. It's more like a keeping aside type. But still, for the broader understanding of people, we do put across them as a traditional saving product, investment in gold. Fixed deposits or term deposits. Of course, all of us are familiar with this word. You put your money in a bank for a particular period of time, let's say for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and so on. And the bank will in turn give you certain return in the form of interest. That is what we call it as fixed deposit or term deposit. One of the, as I told you earlier, one of the much more safer mechanisms, or perceived to be safer mechanism, is that there is a guarantee to some amount of deposits. That amount keeps changing depending on the government's orientation or RBI's orientation to increase it. So there is a particular amount up to which it is guaranteed by the government that this money will be safe. So tentatively, like, you know, all of us feel that it is a safer option. It is a safer option, no doubt about it. So that is one of the savings mechanism. People used to or still continue to put their money in the savings account. Of course, what is the other benefit of a savings account is it provides you immediate liquidity. For some reason, if you want that money, it's easy to break an FD. It's easy to break an FD and take that money. That means liquidity is not at a risk because the money is available with your own bank. It is not with anybody else. It is with your own bank. It is available. So all you have to do is submit an application for withdrawal, premature withdrawal, and the money will come across probably in a couple of hours, not even beyond that. So the feasibility of liquidity is very high in case of a fixed deposit. And probably that is one reason why many people still prefer an FD over any other investment. And finally, some of the products that are dealt in terms of the traditional savings is your insurance product. You would have heard about Life Insurance Corporation, LIC's policies, or other private sector insurance companies' policies, saying that you save across over a period of years. It protects both your life. So in case something happens before the tenure of maturity, somebody whom you nominate will get that money. Some assured they will get. If nothing happens by the end of that period, you will get some return for all the money that you have put across in this. the insurance company will further invest in somewhere else, and as a lump sum, you will get it by the end of that period. So it's a kind of an investment comes, risk measurement, right? Risk saving. So insurance is one of the traditional products that is also a popular product. So these are some of the traditional products that I could think of, which are relevant for this crowd that I thought. Then beyond this, what is the next one? Is generally the savings again are done for long-term investments. Somebody wants to buy property, somebody wants to buy land, somebody wants to buy commercial space, whatever be your interest of buying mulgis, buying shops and so on, even that people do, right? So buying a property, house or a property is kind of a savings that they feel, because eventually over the long term, the value of that asset increases, and thereby they feel that the returns will be higher in terms of a property. That's one way of investing. So some of them directly buy the property from their own sources. Some of them will buy it partially from their own sources, and partly they take a loan, and the loan they repay it over a certain number of period by way of EMIs. That's some way of creating wealth or increasing your value by way of investment. The other investment that some people generally tend to do is in terms of retirement planning. So, okay, I am of X years of age now. I have another 20 years, 25 years, 30 years of active life in terms of what I can do, service what I can do. After that, what? Somewhere I'll become, I'll have wear and tear in my body. I will not be able to run. I will not be able to do certain physical activities, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I need some money, a pot of money to take care of my livelihood for the rest of my life. So towards that retirement planning, people tend to put their money in a product called as a provident fund, in a product called as a national pension scheme. So these are products available. Earlier, the pension was only related to the government sector or the semi-government sector, or state or central government sectors. But now pension schemes are available for people like non-government related as well. They put their money in this scheme called as NPS. That's of course one of the investments in the long term. And of course, the one that we are currently discussing is the investment in stocks and bonds. And finally, there is this mutual fund. Mutual fund are again collection of pool of money from various people, and that eventually gets invested in one particular asset category. So mutual funds, we will have a little detailed discussion about mutual funds in a while. The mutual funds tend to diversify your portfolio. So some of you might be working somewhere else, or might be currently studying, but eventually want to get into a job somewhere you're working. When you're working, you will not have that much of a time to do investment activities. You will not really have the patience to track the markets. Maybe because of the nature of the work that you're doing, maybe the possibility of you getting tied up with your work, or maybe you're living somewhere else, maybe, and hence you are not able to do an investment. In any way, you are trying to give that work of your investments to a professional person, a fund manager, and that fund manager on your behalf is going to invest that money in certain assets, financial assets. Now, which financial assets, that would depend on you, what sort of a scheme that you are picking up, what sort of a mutual fund are you picking up. If you are a risk-taking person, you want to take higher risk, then your money is likely to be put in a fund. You will likely to put your money in a fund, which is called as equity fund, where they further invest that into equity of the companies, equity shares of the company, whatever is traded on the stock exchange. So mutual funds actually work closely with the stock exchange or the stock market, because whatever money is pulled across by various set of people, eventually, if it is related to the equity products, they come onto the equity markets. They buy and sell from the same market that you and you as an individual are willing to buy and sell. Of course, mutual funds are not restricted to only the equity markets. They also invest in debt products, because now they have a large set of money. As an individual, I had only 1,000 rupees with me to spend, but 1,000 rupees I cannot really buy a bond. So 10 of us join. So the money is now 10,000 rupees. Yes, all of us put together this 10,000 can probably buy one bond. Likewise, when the fund becomes more, that asset under management, we call it as AUM, asset under management. When the asset under management increases, that pool can be invested even in the debt instruments. So mutual funds can be put across in terms of equity products, debt products, or a combination of them. It's called a hybrid. So some part of it in the equity, some part of it in the debt, and so on, depending again on what we want to portray. That is what is savings through the long-term investments. Usually these are the products that each of us will be thinking about. Of course, this is just about a couple of days ago, the news came across that India has pipped France, in being the sixth largest in the world by way of market capitalization. What is market capitalization? In simple terms, the market value of the total companies in the stock exchange, traded on the stock exchange. So Reliance will have one market capitalization based on the closing price of the shares multiplied with the total number of shares issued by Reliance. That is market capitalization of Reliance. Likewise, all the listed shares on the stock exchange put together will be the market capitalization of the country, of the stock exchange. And in that sense, India is standing sixth in the world now. When it comes to mutual funds are regulated, while all the markets are regulated by SEBI. Mutual funds are further additionally regulated by a body called as AMFI, Association of Mutual Funds of India. And according to AMFI, there are 44 registered mutual funds in India. And these 44 funds have issued or have created more than 2,500 mutual fund schemes. So you can pick whatever you want, depending on your choice, depending on that nature of your thought, you can easily select the fund and invest. That's one of the things that has happened. HNIs, high net worth individual. So today I might be a small person having a smaller savings, but over a period of time, I will accumulate the savings and I probably become a bigger person. So maybe, I become a very successful film star. I might become a successful doctor who's doing, multi-continental surgeries. I travel around the world. I'm a doctor. So my work is to do the surgery activity. I'm not interested. I'm not having the time, neither I have the energy to look at the stock markets, but I have created wealth or I have money, which is coming across by way of my professional competency. What do I do with that? So these are all people who are called as HNIs, high net worth individuals. Together, if you see, almost 58% of India's GDP is coming across from HNIs. And that's one space where many people, again, how do they make, there's a very classic saying in the market, money makes money. And typically exactly that's what happens. The money that compounds will actually make more money for you. And the other two are just fact finders. If you just look at it, so close to about 1 lakh crore of funds only from the mid cap and the large cap funds that are there. So if you put the overall industry of mutual funds, there are huge amount of money that people actually invest in both the equity markets as well as debt markets, a large space available. What are the key components or participants? Investors like you and me, regulators like AMFI, SEBI, stock exchanges like BSE, NSE, Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange. Banks are primarily there for settlement of your account, right? Eventually, I have to receive money if I'm selling the shares, or if I have to buy shares, I have to pay money. So my bank is definitely required to be a part of this system. That's why we call it as key participant. We have these words. I'm not sure how many of you have heard these words before. So I'm just quickly going to brush upon this. Custodians. Primarily, custodians are institutions which take care of the financial assets or safeguard the financial assets of its clients. I can throw in a few names that are there in our country, basically MNCs, which are in the country, which provide the services of custodians. One of the largest ones in the world is called as State Street. State Street is very much operational in India, and they are custodian bank. What is a custodian bank? They safeguard the financial assets of its clients. Depositories and DPs. So we have, just like banks hold our money in the electronic format, depositories hold our securities in the electronic formats. And depositories have agents who are called as DPs, depository participants. So depository participants are basically agents of the depository who reach out to you and me. So when we open an account, we don't directly open we don't discuss with the depository. We discuss it through the depository participant, the agent, and then the depository opens the account for us. So most of the banks that you have an account with, most of the brokerage firms that you have an account with, which is the last point that is there, all of them tend to take an agency with the depository for opening the Demat accounts. Then, since we are spoken about brokerage houses, brokerage firms, we have plenty of brokers, full service brokers and discount brokers, who are brokers primarily facilitators. These brokers are members of the stock exchange. They are formally registered with the stock exchange and they get a license from them. And also they get registered with SEBI before they commence the business of brokerage firms. And they provide you the services. They provide you the platform. Sorry guys, so some disturbance was there. All right. So typically when we speak about the brokerage firms, you have names that you come across online. If you see Upstocks, you have Zerodha, you have 5paisa, you have Angel Broking, Religare, Kotak Securities, ICICI Securities, and so on, right? All these are brokerage firms. They can be only providing online services like how Zerodha probably does, or they can have a combination of online and offline services like how probably a Kotak Security does. So different brokerage services provide different services to the investors. But primary motive for any of the brokerage services is to provide a platform either through their mobile or through their website, and using that they try to buy and sell the securities. They facilitate primarily. And clearing houses are at the back end, which as an individual, when we are buying and selling, we don't get to deal with them day in, day out. But clearing houses are basically those designated players who help in ensuring that this money and cash, this money and securities that have to be exchanged between the parties are smoothly done. So I'm supposed to get some money because I sold shares. The clearinghouse tries to take the responsibility to see that the money comes to my account. At the same time, if I'm getting the money, my shares have to go to somebody, let's say on the other side. So you have to get the securities properly. Usually the clearinghouse take the responsibility to see that the securities are coming and sitting in your Demat account. So that's the role that a clearinghouse does in the capital markets or the security market. A few more participants who are important participants where we can also look at opportunities in terms of a career. AMCs, asset management companies, and investment advisors. People have to tell, right? So many of the people may not be aware of investment avenues. Maybe my father does not know where the investment options are there. So I should be able to advise him, saying that this is where it is. So likewise, that is done to my personal family. But beyond that, if I have to advise some outsider, somebody who's not closer to me, not me, then I need to be an investment advisor. So generally people have some certifications that they do for being investment advisors. So they have a certification called as CFP, the Certified Financial Planners. They have mutual fund registered, codes that are there. All those certifications that they perform, and they become investment advisors. Then there are registrars and transfer agents who facilitate record keeping of the securities. Again, mostly you and me directly do not deal with them because we are investors, but people otherwise are very much having an opportunity in terms of registrar and transfer agencies, because they are the ones who are going to change your names in the records. Earlier, when I had the security, my name was recorded as the beneficiary. So suppose Reliance is giving any dividend, it will come to me because my name is registered in the register of members. But if I have sold it to you, eventually your name should get registered in the registry. Only then you will get the benefit of any future dividends or bonus issues. Who does that? The registrar and transfer agents facilitate that. So their role is a very important role in the entire financial market. And of course, we have investment banks. Investment banks facilitate large corporates and high net worth individuals to trade or to advise on the capital market. When should you go for a capital issue? When should you go for, what should be the price at which you could probably go? Certain services regarding underwriting activities are provided by investment banks. And then there are final piece of the puzzle is the data vendors. Lot of data goes on at the back end when we are dealing in the stock market. Lot of data. So the data that you and me as investors know is only one small drop in the ocean. There's so much of other data that is used at the back end for all these institutions that we just spoke about. And all those are provided by certain data vendors. The data vendors can be providing the holiday list. Today is a holiday in China. While Indian markets are operating, the Chinese market was closed. Likewise, last week there was a labor holiday in the US. The labor day was there, so they had a holiday stock market, whereas Indian markets were functioning. So world over, different markets will have different holiday lists. Again, some vendor will try to identify and ensure that the data is available. So it may sound very simple saying that, sir, why can't just they pull it up from the websites of the stock exchanges? Yes, they will pull it up from the websites, but it's not just simple because there are umpteen number of products and umpteen number of categories that are there within the same stock exchange. Capital markets may be closed on one day, whereas some other market might be parallelly open. We never know. The complexities of the stock exchange might be dynamic in that sense. So data vendors provide that critical information. It's not just about holiday details. They provide data regarding the price movements that have happened. They provide data regarding the scripts that have changed. So how do I identify a security? I know Reliance, RELIANCE, but if I have to identify Reliance as a security, there is something called as ISIN, International Security Identification Number. Imagine one security, Reliance has this number. There are thousands of securities. So somebody has to keep updated which security is being issued, which security is not. All those are provided by the data vendors. So we have companies which are providing these data services, companies like FactSet, companies like Thomson Reuters, many, including the MNCs which are there. They provide this data services to the respective players in the market. We do have some time, so quickly, mutual fund and systematic investment plan. All of you, I want you to remember that systematic investment plan is something that either if you want to get into the industry and work in the industry, or no, you're not into the part of stock markets, but you are doing something else. But I would suggest as early movers, please try to look at SIPs as one of the things. Mutual funds are primarily a open-ended scheme or a closed-ended scheme. That is, something which is only for a limited period, all called as closed-ended schemes, whereas open-ended they are open till the formally the mutual fund says that now I'm closing the fund. Till the time it will run on. So there are open-ended schemes which have been running for the last 25 years and successfully running for the last 25 years. Then there are types of mutual funds as equity, where majority of the money is put in equities, debt, majority of the fund is put in debt, or hybrid, a combination of those. Sectoral funds. Sir, I am very bullish on the banking stocks, the banking sector of the country. So if you select a banking sectoral fund, your money, whatever you're investing in mutual funds, will be used in that particular sector. IT sector, you're very good about. Nowadays, all of us are very well versed with the pharma sector, right? Because of the vaccinations, because of the other requirements of drugs and so on. So pharma sector or associated sector is taking up a lot of shape. So I want to be bullish on, let's say, a pharma sector. So I specifically put my money on a pharma sector. Or, sir, at some point or the other, one particular sector will be doing good, another sector might be not doing good, and maybe a quarter later, the first sector might be doing bad, the second sector might be doing good. So I don't want to differentiate sectors. Then you don't differentiate a sector, you put it as a general fund. So your choice. So that is the type of funds that are created. And nowadays, because there is a scope for global investing that is opened up, you have fund of funds. What is a fund of fund? You put the money here in one particular fund. For example, Franklin Templeton. So Franklin Templeton is a mutual fund company in India. It's an MNC. You put the fund in India, and that fund can be used by Franklin Templeton for investing in the US markets. So that we call it as fund of funds. So you create a fund, you collect that money, and this fund becomes a feeder fund for another fund. That's called fund of funds or global funds. So basically global funds are use the logic of fund of funds. So these are various options that are available in mutual funds. Depending on your risk appetite, depending on your objective, you need to start looking at it. And the basic fundamental of a mutual fund is simple. Each of us in this particular session, we have about 20 of us in this. None of us are of the same mindset. You may be aggressive. I may be not so aggressive. Somebody might be not at all aggressive. Different people will have different requirements. I may require the funds maybe in the next 10 years. I don't want to hold it more than that. Some of you very youngsters say that I don't need the funds for the next 20 years, 30 years. I want to keep it very long time. Again, different requirements, right? So each of those requirements is what we call it as an investment objective. Based on the investment objective, we tend to put the money in all these schemes. So a systematic investment plan, SIP, is a method which will not put a lot of burden on our pocket, because you can start as low as 500 per month. And then that compounds. I'm just giving you an example here. Again, it's only from an illustrative perspective. Let's assume I have an annual return of 12% that I receive on a mutual fund scheme continuously. If I put 2,000 per month in a scheme for 40 years, 2,000 per month in a scheme for 40 years, that means my total investment, actual investment will be about 10 lakhs, 9.6 lakhs, so roughly rounding off to 10 lakhs. The value of it at the same rate of 12%, if it compounds, it will be 2.4 crores. That's what we call it as the power of compounding. So the longer the period you keep the money, so the earlier you start, even if it is a smaller amount. So instead of 2,000, let's say we change it to 500. For 40 years, if you invest 500 every month, then it will become a 60 lakhs by the end of it. That means you even invest 2.5 lakhs approximately, and that money will become 60 lakhs. So the possibility of growing money is very high, which we call it as the power of compounding. And your SIPs are a beautiful tool to do that. And low investment, as I said, 500 per month onwards, you can start. So that's a comfort factor, even if you are in an early stage of your career. So rupee cost averaging comes in because you put it systematically every month, periodically, whether the market is up or down, it doesn't matter. Overall, your average cost comes down, and eventually the returns will be very high. Convenience, because you have plenty of products that you can deal with. It's very convenient and easy to operate. Now, I'm not recommending any mutual funds here, guys. I'm only telling you that SIPs are one good way of investing. And that is one of the things that you need to know. The power of compounding as a finance student is something that we need to be familiar with. Now, moving on, all of you, since you are looking at career opportunities that are there in the securities market related activities, these are the various opportunities that come across in various fields. So we have spoken about the products, we have spoken about the participants, we spoke about the various investment avenues. All these put together, these are the various areas in which you can get a job in. You could start being your own trader, or you can be working in a company as a trader or a dealer. You can be working as a product manager, a portfolio manager, or a fund manager in a mutual fund. You could be an investment advisor wanting to help people advise on their wealth. You could be associated in a company which is dealing with the operations of it. That is where we call it as a process associates. A lot of MNCs again in India, which are associated with the investment banking operations, will require somebody who understands stock markets to be facilitating that. You can be into a risk analyst. When you are looking at which stock to invest, right? You need to do a lot of research. So you do a fundamental analysis, you do a technical analysis of the stocks. So you can become a research analyst. Financial analyst, purely from a fundamental perspective, I'm going to look at the reports of the company's financials and suggest whether this is a right point of value of the company or not. Using financial modeling is what we use for that. Then we have valuation services, particularly for companies which are going in for an IPO. How do I know Zomato's price should have been that 72 to 76? There would have been some backward calculation that would have been done, right? That is what we call it as valuation service. How do they value that particular company? And finally, capital raising consulting that you could do at an advanced stage. You could be consulting somebody in terms of a requirement of capital. So these are the various landscapes that are there in the securities markets. And once you have that understanding of the markets, the ins and outs of the markets, you can be looking at any of these. And the beauty of stock market, why we particularly picked up this topic for you, the beauty of it is, if you had actually seen the market 2020, Jan period, markets started falling. Okay, globally markets started falling. So did the Indian markets. Slowly, February, markets further fell. March, markets further fell. March 23rd, there was a lockdown. Almost practically the country was stopped. Nothing was happening, right? You were asked to stay indoors for the entire period of 3 weeks. You did not step out of your house. But did the market stop? No, markets were continuing. Not a single day, not even one single day because of COVID, the stock markets ever were in a halt. That only goes to say that the market is not going to stop for it. Come what may, the markets are going to be a consistent, job creating activity, and all these jobs, that all the landscape that I'm portraying to you on the screen now, are opportunities available throughout the year, throughout your life, and hence you can choose whatever is your convenient area. You are good at operations, you want to be part of the operations. Sir, I'm very good at talking and convincing people. I want to be a sales guy. I mean, sales guy in the sense that, you are convincing somebody to actually, look into a product. You can become an investment advisor. So depending on your skill, I'm not again saying that, sales is good, operations is bad and stuff like that. I'm both. I had experience of both sales as well as operations. So I know the pluses and minuses of both. And both of them are equal in weightage. Sales, of course, pays more when compared to operations. But whatever be the situation, you have a orientation, you have an understanding, you can put your efforts more in that particular domain within the securities market and ensure that you land up a good career. And all of them are not a job that will be there for a day or two, but these are careers. That is, you can build it over a period of time. You join as an analyst, you can go up to the vice president positions in both the domestic market, that is the Indian companies, as well as with the MNCs that are there in India. So many MNCs are operating in India, guys. And it is not related to only one location. Across the country, in Delhi, NCR, there are a lot of companies that are there which are into investment banking operations. In Mumbai, there are so many companies which are there which are into operational activities. Mumbai being the financial capital, of course. Then we have Jaipur, we have Hyderabad, we have Chennai, Bangalore, Kolkata. We have plenty of companies that are there, which are Kolkata, of course, little less still compared to the rest of the world. But all these other companies, major hubs that we are speaking about, are catching up pretty much fast and welcoming the MNCs to set up their offices. Pune, another example. So that's how the landscape looks like.